Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Ginge and Pedro show. I am, of course, Ginge Gingerton. Alongside me is my man, my sergeant at arms at this
Yeah.
point, Pedro Egg. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, guys? I can't show my face as I'm wearing cream.
Yes, I saw him
Uh,
earlier. He looks
uh,
like an '80s mother with the shit all
exactly.
over her face and the
Yeah.
cucumbers.
All Mrs. Doubtfire over here.
He's cut holes out of the cucumbers so that he can still
Hmm
wear them but see through them. It's really weird.
Yes. It's weird.
So, as you probably noticed, we are not on a typical Sunday show. This is another in our Wednesday special series where we have a guest come through midweek to bring us something exciting, something that just can't wait until Sunday.
No.
So, and with that, we have one of the more I'll just come out and say it, one of the more respectable guests you could have on the show. He's Ryan Wynn's co-host, and you'll see him around town. The one and only Mr. John Hervey.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Yeah, dude.
What's
we
up,
need
bro?
music. We need music. The thing's like,
Yeah.
oh my gear somewhere else.
Yeah, you're the master of music, Pedro. You can.
Yeah.
Drop the ball.
I'm dropping the ball. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry.
whip some good intro music in there.
Yeah.
We were playing with some of this horrendous StreamYard branding music. Let's see. This
Oh.
one's called "Feeding the Ducks." John, you
Oh,
just tell
no.
me.
All right,
tell me
let's
what you
hear it.
think. Let me
Oh,
turn it down
no.
just a touch. Okay, here we go. Can we hear that?
Dude, that's like
Porno
this.
music.
That's softcore porn
That
music.
sounds
You
that
feel
sounds
in
like
the-
something that I want to play. When the kids are asleep,
Yeah, sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
trying to make
taking
some
my
more
lady
kids.
over. Like, hey,
exactly. When the time's right.
kids are asleep, baby. Hey,
Hey,
Hey, girl, you trying to check out this
You
comic
know?
book?
yeah, dude.
Exactly.
Time- It's Trojan time.
All right.
Yeah. Horrible.
Okay. I'm gonna not let you live that phrase down, Pedro.
But
Pedro, it's Trojan time.
It's
Ang.
Trojan time. Yeah. There you go. I
Right.
can live with that. I can live with
Yeah,
that.
you can get a tattoo somewhere, a little tramp
yeah.
stamp. It's
Mhm. Yeah, it's Trojan time.
all right. No, that would be gross. No, okay. So,
Yeah.
John, man, thank you
Sure.
for coming on the show. We definitely are. It's our fault for not having you on sooner, but I'm glad you come by. You hit me up in the DMs, and now here we are.
No, it was my bad too, man. Some scheduling stuff came up too with the kiddos, but I appreciate you guys having a Wednesday show for me. Appreciate that.
Oh, dude.
Oh, absolutely, buddy.
You're part of the family, buddy.
Appreciate that, my man.
Yeah.
My brother from another mother. Just
That's
throwing
right.
that out there.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Just saying.
Yeah,
My
dude.
brother right here.
John, we the way we usually do the show is we kind of get to know your creative journey a little bit, and then we kind of jump into whatever project you've got. And I know you've been around making comic books for a good while now. At this point, you've got several titles.
Right.
Could you kind of start with growing up? What was it? What were some of the main whether it was books or movies? What were some of the things that really drove you to be a writer, like inspired you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm gonna end up showing my age, but that's all good.
Mm.
I mean, when I first started reading comics, there really wasn't a direct market like there is today.
Mm.
So I mean, we'd go to the local drugstore. There'd be a spinner rack. 7-Eleven had a spinner rack. There was a local drugstore called Webster's up in Altadena where I lived, and they had a spinner rack. And then they graduated to 2 spinner racks, which was crazy because I was just like, there are so many comics to choose from. And as a kid, if I'm sitting there with like $1, and this, I could potentially get 3 comics.
Wow.
I could
You
potentially
are
get 3. It all depended. So I would spend time, especially anytime my mom went to the drugstore, I'm going with her because I'm gonna sit there on the stairs. It was an interesting, like the way the building was set up was really interesting because Altadena, it is on an incline, and the building literally it was like 3 buildings that were interconnected, and with each building you had a set of stairs that went down to the next room. So you had like basically the liquor store, then you went down a little bit into the pharmacy, then you went down a little bit into the gift shop, and the gift shop is where the comics were. So my mom would be up there, and I'd be sitting on the stairs down here, just going through comics. So you got to understand, there was no internet. There was no way to do all the kind of research that we do today. So this sounds stupid, but like Super Friends were big.
Mm.
You know, I would watch they would rerun the old 60s Spider-Man cartoons. So I knew Spider-Man. They'd rerun the old 60s, Captain America, Hulk, Thor cartoons. And those were animatics.
Yeah.
So I knew all those characters. So I'd get those books. There was no Super Friends comic book because I never put two and two together. I didn't realize that the Justice League
Was it Super Friends?
were the Super Friends. So I'd pick up like a Superman or a Batman or a Wonder Woman. One day I go down there and and there's a buddy of mine at this point. Actually he's a dude that a lot of folks know that are like in the MMA named Herb Dean. He's one of the main refs.
Yeah.
So
Herb Dean.
Herb and I went to school together for a while.
Very cool.
And Herb, that's a whole bunch of stories right there. Because that's a dude, I mean, he always loved to fight.
Okay.
I mean, you understand, that was his thing. I mean, he wasn't even like malicious about it. The dude just liked to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the games he was, hey, let's go body, where you punch each other in the body. I'm like, Herb, I don't.
Why?
This is not the game I want to play, man. Let me just see your Daredevil, dude. Let me see your Daredevil book. Because he collected Daredevil. So it was actually at his house that I read the whole arc. I read the Frank Miller arc. So he had the Frank Miller arc, the death of Elektra, all the way through, where Daredevil gives it to Bullseye. He had that arc.
Wow. So
And-
did you have to get punched to read his books, or?
I got punched anyway.
Okay, cool.
I didn't have to get punched to read the books, but it always just came, it always happened. Because that was just the way that he would roll. So, like, I was picking up random books, and then one day I saw a book that really intrigued me. And I want to say it was maybe Avengers 182. It had a cover with a giant Crusher Creel on it. He's on a big oil rig. And he's holding up Miss Marvel like he's King Kong. So he's giant. The Vision is attacking him. The Beast is attacking him. So my friend Herb, he was collecting Daredevil and he was collecting X-Men. So I was reading some of his X-Men, but like I saw the Blue Beast and I didn't really understand it because sometimes the dude didn't have fur and sometimes the dude was blue. So I didn't fully get what was going on. But I said, okay, so I recognized that character. I knew Iron Man. I recognized Iron Man. I didn't know Miss Marvel, but she was smoking. Not now, but back then, I was like, okay, that's good. I was like, she's dope. Right. And I saw the Vision. I was like, I'm gonna check this book out. Now, little did I know, I was picking up a book that was being drawn by John Byrne. Writer was Dave Michelini, and this was an amazing run in kind of Avenger lore, because during this time, the artists on this book were John Byrne and George Perez. And they probably did like a 12-issue arc right around this time, heading up towards 200. So I picked up this book, and I'm like, this is amazing. The story is great. The art is great. I mean, So I keep rereading it. And you got to understand, I don't understand how comics work at all. So I'm just like, I keep, that night, my mom's just like, why don't you put away your comic? I'm like, I am now a comic book collector. I'm like. My mom's like, that's good. Finish your greens, baby. Finish.
Yeah, exactly. That's cute.
That's cute.
I like it.
Yeah.
So now I'm on a mission, but I don't understand how comics work. So I'm like trying to find back issues, which was really hard. So like I went over to the local 7-Eleven, and then I would go over and I realized, hey, you know what? Sometimes even at the drugstore Webster's where I would go to, they would miss issues. So they really didn't have any rhyme or reason for how they were ordering books. They just put books on the shelf. I'm just like, hey, you didn't get the next Avengers. And I'm checking over here. So then my friends hit me to the store called Book Village. And Book Village was a place further down in Pasadena. It was just a bookstore. But in the back, they had all these old issues. And other people that knew comics would come in and they would either... because it still wasn't a big collector market. So people would read books and they'd resell them. So they'd sell them back. So like there was so I was able to pick up like a whole bunch of old Avenger books. Became a big Avenger fan. You know, my mom was good with it because I was actually reading something. Because when I was growing up, you know, I had no volition to read anything. You know, so comics, I started picking them up. You start looking at the art. Then you start, hey, I need to get the rest of the story. Next thing I know, I'm reading. I'm reading comics. Then I start picking up fiction books and, you know, science fiction books. You know, it just really piqued my interest. So I think comics as a medium, that was like my first true love, comics.
Gateway drug. Nice.
Oh,
Very
man.
nice, brother. Awesome,
And,
dude.
and then for me, you know, having the opportunity, I was in school. I was over at USC, and a buddy of mine got a job at Motown Animation as an editor. And he reached out to me immediately. He's like, "Listen, I got this job." He's like, "But you're like, you're one of the dudes that was collecting comics from day one. You know, you've always loved." He's like, "I don't know, but maybe I can get you some kind of a job over here." I was like, "Man, you know that would be a dream come true." Long story short, he introduces me to Michael Davis, who's one of the founders of Milestone, and he's the dude that was the president of Motown Animation. And I end up getting on as what's up? I end up getting on as basically a gopher. So I've got all these ideas, but he's just like, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, you got some good ideas, but what I need you to do right now is get me a donut and some coffee. That's what I need you to do." You know? So yeah, I was there for a while. It was fun. You know, a lot of just great adventures because this was during the time when Image was still really booming. So we were in what's called the Miracle Mile area of LA, kind of near where the La Brea tar pits are, where you know, kind of close to when people think about you know, Melrose, that area. On the west side, you had the Cow, so Top Cow was over there. Michael Turner was alive, still had his studio at that time. You had Rob Liefeld and his dudes in Orange County. So like I was really cool with Murat Michaels, who was one of the artists over there. So like it was fun, you know, and just
Can I make a joke at Ryan's expense real quick?
Always.
Did you know Danny Mickey?
See, I'm older than Ryan. I didn't know. I didn't know Danny.
Yeah.
I didn't know Danny. So like
Wait, you're older than Ryan?
Oh heck yeah.
What happened to Ryan?
Well, you know, it's just black don't crack.
Exactly. There you go. There you go.
You do look young, bro. Honestly,
I don't want to say
40.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, man, because I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I'm 51.
There you go.
Damn.
There you
go.
go.
See, you can't tell when I'm sitting here, but you know, when I help coach my kids' basketball team, when I move, you know, I'm 51.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, you're like, dude, that dude walks like Fred Sanford.
Yeah. This is go. Lillian, I'm coming home, Lillian.
I was talking to my girlfriend the other day.
This is the big one.
I was talking to my girlfriend the other day. Something about dads. Like, it's hard to tell how old a dad is. We were watching something on just some horror movie on TV, and it was like, you know, some dad having a reaction shot, and I'm like, that guy, you know, he could be 25 or he could be 35. I don't know. He's a dad, but you can never really tell. It's something strange.
The tell is movement, Ginge.
Yeah.
Look at The Irishman.
Movement.
They DH De Niro, but when he was killing that guy, it was an old man killing a guy. So like,
movement is always the tell.
Yeah, dude.
Always the tell, because that betrays you.
Yeah.
You know, that betrays you.
You're gonna get up.
My knees hurt.
It's just a given. I grunt when I get up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just like it's all good. But man, I'll tell you. So this was in like the mid 90s that all those shenanigans were going on, and we were having a great time. And I got the opportunity to write one of the books just because another writer ghosted. Sometimes just being in the right place at the right time. And it was a property that I've been working on a long time with the creator, Chuck Drost, a property called Trouble Man. So my boss, Michael Davis, comes up to me on a Thursday. I'll never forget it. He's like, "Listen, John, like, you've been bugging me for over a year with these ideas and wanting to write something." It's like, listen, now understand, the world of comics is very different than it was now. So it's like the only way really to get into shops I guess it still is, but people aren't really trying to get into shops as much today. The only way to really get into shops was through Diamond. And they had already put in their solicitation for the book. So the clock was already running. So, you know, you already have, you know, basically the shop owners and the people that are working there trying to figure out what they're going to buy based on the ads that were put in there. So you really don't want to be late. And especially, this wasn't like a well-known commodity. So my boss was like, here's the deal. You're going to come back on Tuesday with script 1 of Trouble Man, and you're going to write for me also a story arc, you know, and hey, you know, if this works out, all good. If not, you know, you don't have to worry about working in this industry again because you won't.
Oh,
and
nice.
he was joking, not joking. So I was like, okay, so the thing, I didn't tell him this till years later. He's like, you bastard. So like, I've been working on this property for a long time with my buddy Chuck. So this is what we would do. This is the kind of nerds we were. After work, I mean, we worked at a comic book place, so we would do one of two things. We would all either network the computers in Motown and go into different offices and play Doom, because that was the only way we could do it back then.
Nerd.
That was the only way we could do it back then.
Yeah.
Or we'd go to somebody's apartment and, you know, just nerd out, talk about. So I would spend a lot of time. I would just go over to his apartment because these kids were all from New York, so none of them drove. So they all lived literally within 2 blocks of the office. So I'd go over to his apartment, and we would just start riffing and you know, kind of putting ideas together for his property. And his was like the 4th and final property that Motown published kind of before its unfortunate and untimely demise on the comic book side. But long story short, I ended up co-writing the first issue. I really wrote it, and I already told my boss, you know, he just slapped his name on it, but he gets to do that. And then the rest of the issues, I was credited as the writer. Then Motown kind of looked at the numbers and said, like, oh, you know, you guys are moving 35,000 units a book. You know, you guys were showing us how Spawn was moving 1 million units a book. This is a totally different world than what we live in now. You know, they're like, this is not what Motown got into this game for.
Yeah.
So then they said, you know, adios, you know, to all this stuff. But it gave me an opportunity to be an editor there. It gave me an opportunity to write under an editor. And I started doing some freelance work at that point. And then as kind of the ideas started to flow, and another one of my buddies, he actually wrote Bulletproof Monk, which was actually a comic. Very few people know it was actually a really dope comic that he wrote.
Like 3 issues.
He ended up optioning it, selling it. You know, they flipped it into something that was kind of cuter and more Hollywood. But long story short, my man ended up with nothing. He didn't even get credits.
Oh no!
So like, it just gave me a different perspective about ideas, the power of IP, the necessity to protect your IP, and believe me, I'm not saying this to discourage anybody in the way that they're getting their books out there. You know, he went with a publisher. You know, and I know that's a great way to get more eyeballs on your book. But I realized at that point, I said, you know what? The self-publishing thing is the way it's got to go. You know, if not, you know, unless you're able to publish your stuff through, you know, Image or whatever, you know, you're going to find yourself compromising, you know, yourself, your property at some point in this game, you know. So I started self-publishing. I had some ideas. I was going to originally take to an editor and to a publisher, but then I ended up self-publishing, the first one being Black Tiger. Nice. And Black Tiger has grown into a very nice property for me. Published the equivalent of 9 issues, and the next 3, that campaign will be coming up next. And then Magna, which we'll talk a little bit about today, have published, you know, the equivalent of 6 issues worth, and 3 issues of the Posse. So slowly but surely, just building up momentum and building a universe of content. And my ultimate objective, truly for me, is I've come full circle when it comes to media. You know, I started off loving comics, and I was really enthralled as someone who originally only saw my stuff and you see comics and you see like like TV animation. I was really enthralled seeing the movies, and I was I loved it. I was really sucked into it. I'm still cool with it, but I'm kind of over it in terms of where my real love and where my real focus is. I mean, I'm really about comics, and about comics for the sake of comics, because that's really where you have the potential to see a creator's vision and what a creator's really trying to do with a property. So a lot for me, and this is a big reason why, I'm a part of this indie community. I love seeing properties that people are really invested in, that people really care about, that people are putting their heart and soul into. I felt like when I was reading comics back in the day, even though those folks didn't own those comics, they still had that same approach to making comics. They really loved those characters. I'm not going to vote with my dollars for stuff that whether it just becomes a mockery of itself, or just a cheapening and a way just to get more money. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind spending dollars on content, but give me something good.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm also hoping to contribute to this whole indie comic renaissance, this whole movement, as we all continue to grow. And brothers, we know it's like things look different all the time. I mean, just this whole thing continues to grow and to evolve. We're all figuring out the best ways to get our products out there. We're all trying to figure out the best ways to assist each other and how to grow the pie. Yeah. So I don't have the answers by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying to get up to bat a few times and hopefully get my bat on the ball here and there and get on base and do a little something.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
very
right.
Nice. I like it. Dude, couldn't have said any of that better myself, honestly, and completely agree. And it's actually super interesting that you mentioned Bulletproof Monk. I haven't read the book, but I have this little thing that I keep discovering, I guess. A while back, I got into Charles Addams, the creator of Addams Family, which to me, I don't know specifically if there was somebody before him, but as far as I can tell, comic books or comic strips have been a source of IP, for lack of a better word, for Hollywood for, since at least the Addams Family, which is like, 40s. I think the original show I think came out around the 50s or 60s, but there was also a cartoon show done in Charles Addams art style back then. And things like Bulletproof Monk. There's a couple other, Men in Black. That's another one that started off as a comic book that was like did 3 issues, a really small run, and then got bought. But Bulletproof Monk, man, that's one that I was actually looking at like a month ago on eBay. I was like, man, gotta check those books out.
Dude, you'll check it out. Yeah. Sorry about that, Pedro. Bulletproof Monk is so different than what you see in the movie. It's so gritty. It's so dope. Promise.
Yeah, the movie was interesting in that it's kind of that very early Marvel formula you see today. I think it came out in like 2005 or 6 or something. But I mean, they've got their serious guy, they've got the funny guy, they've got the chick. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like everything was sort of there. I think even Ryan Reynolds was in that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Stifler.
No, Stifler.
Oh,
Stifler, wasn't it?
Yeah. And when they wanted to make him, they wanted to make him like an action star. He made a couple of movies, and that was one. Yeah. But yeah, dude, like Bulletproof Monk was the introduction of Chow Yun-fat to the American market. I think it was like his first movie. And
I think you're right, for the American market. Man, those Chow Yun-fat John Woo movies, that's a whole nother show right there, baby.
Yeah, dude. Ooh. Pedro is flying.
We'll have to do a Kung Fu episode sometime.
It's like operatic violence.
Yeah, dude. The thing with Ang Lee and Chow Yun-fat and all that kind of Kung Fu, they never collaborated with Prince. And seeing the imagery in those movies and having like a Prince soundtrack, that would have been heaven. But it never happened.
Man. Hey, that's what made the first Batman movie, man.
Yeah, exactly. Batman.
I mean, you had the Prince soundtrack, plus you had the score by Danny Elfman.
Oh yeah.
Of Oingo Boingo. So I mean,
nasty. Just back to back.
Come on, man.
Yeah, very nice. You got to respect the amount. You actually kind of got to respect the love of the. I mean, that probably wasn't cheap to spend that much money on two really well-to-do composers at the time or musicians at the time. Kind of got to take your hat off to it.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing with Prince is that Prince was not only money, like he had to like it or he wouldn't do shit.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it would be like, this bores me. And he will leave.
Prince was all about the art. That's the reason why he stopped calling himself Prince for a while. I mean, he was all about the art.
Yep.
It's like, I've always been a Batman fan.
You know what? There's crazy stuff about Prince, man. You know that dude could hoop?
Yeah, exactly.
Could hoop.
Yeah, dude. That Charlie Murphy story is no joke.
Yeah.
There's actually a follow-up. Like somebody interviewed Prince, and I don't know how far back this was, but he actually talks about that, and he says all of this was true except he didn't serve them pancakes. His people served him pancakes. Yeah. He's like, so pancakes were still served. It just didn't come out of Prince's hands. It came out of like his house people.
Yeah.
You know? I just love that, man. And he was like laughing about the whole story. He seemed to have a really great sense of humor about it.
So. Oh, dude.
Yeah. Very, very kind of he seemed to have like just like a very kind of underscored humor, to himself.
No, you know he used like that Chappelle's picture. When Chappelle dressed himself as Prince, he used that picture for a record that's called Waffles Can Wait. You can look it up.
Wow.
And it's a right? Prince record. Yeah, dude. Like he just like judo move to the nth degree, man.
That's
like
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
That would never happen today because everybody's so soft and everybody's like so sensitive.
And
everybody,
triggered.
Everybody gets triggered and.
Oh man.
Whatever.
Nobody's allowed to laugh here, John. I don't know if you noticed the sign coming in. This is a laugh-free zone.
Laugh-free zone.
That's right, because it may offend somebody.
Yeah, we don't laugh because we care.
So before we hop over to the book here, let's just say hello to the chat. We got Mo Biggs. What's up, Mo?
Hey, what's up, Mo?
Good to see you, sir. Mo says, you guys finally have a show at an hour when I'm awake.
There you go.
We do get a lot of Brits on Sunday, like Bristoli and Dave. He'll pop in. Let's see. Shadowhawk Talks. What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
What's up, Shadow?
Let's see. Shadow says, oh, good stuff. Daredevil was actually great for a minute, right? Back in the era.
That was a great run.
Yeah, dude.
He also says, before like 1980, I had an incredibly hard time finding older comics. It was a bitch back then.
Yeah, it was. It was a crazy hunt. I mean, and you didn't have the resources to find stuff. You're literally just flying blind, just trying to go places, old bookstores, just trying to find where can I find this stuff. And it was fun, but it was frustrating.
When I was when I was coming up, I was born in the 90s, 92.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Comics were, I reckon at that point, at least where I'm at in Florida, were pretty much only in comic shops. But what was big for me, what was kind of my version of that was a couple video game magazines at the local grocery store or Winn-Dixie. Like my mom would go shopping and I would just walk over to the magazine aisle. And I would just sit and flip through video game magazines or, just that kind of stuff. But that was definitely something for a good long time. Like growing up, I wanted to be a video game writer. And I think just storytelling from video games in general definitely inspired me to want to be a writer. So,
no, that's super cool. And I think everybody's journey to the creative process is different. But you also realize like the different influences, that we all had. And that's one of the challenges that comics has right now is just the lack of ready accessibility. It's getting better. I think the next hurdle we got to figure out, us as adults have figured out how to get our hands on books through stuff like this. How do we get the next generation involved?
Oh, dude. We have to get them interest first.
Well, you know what, though? But they read. I know this is a whole nother show. I know. But, I mean, it's like they read manga.
Yeah, they do read manga, but the thing with manga is that the weavery that started, and I don't know, this is like maybe a mentality of scarcity because it was so hard to get your hands on good manga in the 90s that it became like a myth and No, it has this aura of, oh my god, that's so rare,
Yeah.
and that has, I don't know, like transported now that now people feel more comfortable reading manga than American comics. 'Cause they feel, and I don't know if this is warranted, but they feel like American comics are easy or simpler, which is really not the case.
Which is totally not the case.
Yeah, but that's the aura that manga has. Dude, I was talking to a friend of mine, one of the drummer of my bands. Like, he was watching Dragon Ball Z
Yeah.
with his son, and it's like, dude, I never watched it. Like, no, this is so awesome. Like, watch out, don't become a weeb. There's good manga, but there's horrible manga.
Yeah.
And then I gave him like a list of movies, anime and European animation and American animation. You can see, 'cause that's the thing. Like, people always think that things from Japan are superior. I'm not saying they're bad, but dude, America invented animation. You don't need a Panamanian to tell you this. This is your art. And
I think what you're saying is spot on. And there was like for me, back in the day, I guess around the time Ginge was still on the teat, I was being more introduced to more anime. So I'm talking about little, Ninja Scroll. Stuff that was just dope.
Yeah.
But then you quickly realize that was the upper echelon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of it. And they have a whole body of stuff, some of which is just gutter.
Yeah. Oh, dude, some bottom feeding stuff.
Yeah, which is some body feeding stuff.
Yeah, dude. Like, for example, like anime wise from the 90s, like Pat Labor, for example, it's an awesome series.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, dude, check it out. Even like the whole like Magic Gal series, like Sailor Moon and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's this series called Magic Knight Rayer. It's like really like pretty cutesy, like girls that cry half the episode. But then comes the enemy and they jump into this amazing mechas that is just like, dude, really elegant and fighting with swords, and it's like amazing. And then they go back to crying. But it's the thing. Like, they were bolder with their storytelling.
Yeah.
Even though it has those like Japanese notes that are really like, I don't know, this is gonna sound racist, but it's like Eastern storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like Eastern storytelling. So it doesn't hit the notes of a good Western story.
Yeah.
Because the culture is different. But yeah.
But that's why I think, though, the indie comic movement has the opportunity, because part of the problem, and even like my sons, it's like they like anime because the stories, even if the stories are outlandish, they don't punk out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like if they're gonna start going down some horrific road, they'll go.
Yeah.
And the whole awful train wreck, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's an amazing story, but it's like they'll go where they've kind of committed to go.
Yeah.
And too much of American, at least mainstream comics, it's just it punks out, and it's just trying to fill your mind with some kind of, instead of just entertain you, it's trying to, we want to teach you this. And people aren't stupid. Kids are like, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not teaching me anything. This sucks.
Yeah, I mean, one might just describe it loosely as propaganda covered in like capes and stuff.
It's a pamphlet. It's a pamphlet with capes. That's all it is.
It's funny. So I've been trying to get my son just to give more kind of like the American books more of a try.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. So then like I saw him watching The Boys.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, so he brought up something that's very interesting. Because he was just like, hey, Dad. He's like, okay, so then how come none of these heroes can be heroic? I'm like,
yeah.
So we started having a conversation. I was like, well, listen, I have a particular perspective. I feel like when we hit like the mid to late 80s, there was a revolution that occurred. It happened. It was a British Revolution in comics.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're talking with The Dark Knight. We're talking with Watchmen. And it did something that was cool. But it did something that I don't think was supposed to be the new staple. I think it was just, to me, those should have been just some really cool books, and then you keep moving.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is it ended up changing the whole culture of comics. So all this stuff started becoming about deconstructing heroes. That's fine if you deconstruct them and then you build them back up, which I thought, I feel like when DC did their first Crisis, they did that. Like, if you read Man of Steel, if you read Wonder Woman by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, I mean, they reconstructed some stuff that was really cool. But then after that, they kept deconstructing, but they weren't building stuff back up. They just started making these heroes that were just jacked up shadows of themselves. They no longer had the stuff that made them heroic. They were just these whiny characters with powers, and you're like, dude, I don't want to see this whiny simp now, with these powers. I want to see these heroes, have to overcome something and then overcome it. Darn it.
Yeah.
So you realize. So I realized that, like, at least in my mind, I'm like, we kind of took our own hands off the wheel, and this whole revolution in comics has done things to heroes that none of us like seeing. And now we're doing stuff I don't even understand, bro. I mean, I was just like, look, if you want to make a cool hero, make a cool hero. But it's like, a story conceit is not, a character being black is not a story conceit. A character being gay is not a story conceit. If you want to make that an element of your story, that's your business. Go ahead and do that. But that's not a story conceit. That's not a story. What's your story? Black Superman. That's not a story.
That's fabulous Spider-Man. Yeah, it's lovely.
It's an idea.
Thor is now in the ghetto. And he has...
Oh, dude, that was so insulting.
And he has... whatever.
Graffiti
on Mjolnir.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah, it's strange. It's almost disrespectful to the idea of how that character might perceive Mjolnir. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't respect his own legendary weapon.
It's disrespectful to everyone.
It's disrespectful across the board. And it's like, I realize we live in a culture where everybody feels offended. So, like, I'm not offended by it, but I just think it sucks.
Yeah.
I think it sucks. And, it's not like there's people out there clamoring for this. And that's they make it sound like, oh, you're finally getting what you wanted. I'm like, listen, I'm a black dude that's been reading comics for decades. I don't want this. Never wanted this. There's a lot of things I never wanted. I thought Falcon was cool. I never wanted Falcon to be Captain America. I wanted Falcon to be Falcon.
Yeah, dude.
Because Falcon's a cool character. Because once you did that, now you're saying, oh, Falcon sucked. So now he's Captain America. What?
Yeah.
No.
Falcon is not enough.
Exactly.
So he needs to be Captain America. It's like, nah.
It's like, nah. He's the Falcon. And if you want to make some other characters, and if you notice, when was the last time a new character was created?
Yeah.
They don't have that ability to make something new.
It's I think that's actually kind of the case to a degree. I don't think these people are really that creative. I think they do better with other people's ideas, and just playing with something that's already popular doesn't require you to do the work to create something that people like in the first place. So you just get handed the keys to a Ferrari.
Where's your passion? The thing is, like, if your passion is being an activist, then you have no business doing comics. And that's a conversation to be had, because I mean, it's showing, like, all the product that's coming is just like, okay, we're covering the agenda. This is what's important. Yeah, this is what's important to you, but your story is not making the sales because it sucks. Because that's not your focus. So maybe you guys should be doing something else.
And that's the bottom line: is it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks.
We got a couple people popping in the chat. Jake Twister, he's been throwing out some stuff here. No one wants to open a covert school book. It defeats the purpose of hiding comics between the school book during class. Yeah, so you don't want to pick up a comic book and go to school.
Yeah,
a government-approved school. It's like, hooray.
Exactly. It's absurd.
We got Neo Star Productions. It's got the best intros in the business. The brilliant star that shines through the night. The surge of power that jumpstarts justice. Riser Man stands before you.
Hey, dude, it's right on.
Neostar had a really great episode with us a couple months back. Check that out. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice,
So
nice.
We've just zipped right through 40 minutes of conversation, and we haven't even brought up the book, which I'm actually. No, it's been great talking with you, John. It's easy to talk to, bro. So this is great. So let's see. Neostar says Falcon was cooler in that 90s Avengers cartoon than his entire run as Captain America.
Very true.
Facts.
Very true, man.
Absolute facts.
There we go. And Jake here. We'll finish this off and move on to the book. True activism is to beat them in their own game. There we go. Excuse me,
But that's what makes that whole movement crazy. It's like all that did was deprive us of characters that we love, and then make cheap substitutes. It's like if that's really your objective, then just make other characters.
Yeah, dude, and turn the audience against characters that have been beloved for years, for decades.
Yeah.
So whatever. Enough of that. Let's talk about Magna and the posse.
Speaking of creating, beating them at their own game. Let's talk Magna. So, John, what do we got here, sir? This is an ongoing series at this point. We've got the first 3 books.
That's right. So, this campaign is actually volume 2 of Magna: The Last Pantheon. So, we released volume 1 the year prior. This is volume 2, and it's a 76-page graphic novel. You also can get volume 1. So if you have volumes 1 and 2, you've got the full story arc of The Last Pantheon, and it's a fun ride. You're going to enjoy it. It's the story of a female protagonist, Ginge, like my dude here. There is Ginger love here in CG, and
very good.
This is a little bit of a period piece, as well as a mixture of other things that I love, such as mythology. So it happens in 1942. So you have the horrors of World War II that are afoot. And in the midst of this, our protagonist, who's already extraordinary, she learns that she is adopted. And this takes her on basically on a journey of self-discovery. She finds herself amidst a disheveled band of the last of the world's pantheon members, from Egyptian lore, from the Assyr, Greek, Chinese pantheons, and they've band together my sister-in-law's dog is going wild, for the purpose of survival. So she now finds herself in the midst of their struggle for survival as she's learning who she is. So this volume 2 it's a conclusion to that story arc. A lot of great action, a lot of the stuff that we love as comic book fans, and some fun twists in the story. So you can get, if you haven't gotten volume 1, you can get volumes 1 and 2 of Magna: The Last Pantheon, and then a new story, The Posse, which is also a 76-page graphic novel, is a property that's happening in the same universe. And for those of you that have backed Black Tiger, that's a Western Seaboard city, kind of a California city. This is my own version of New York. So I call it the Decapolis. So instead of 5 boroughs, there's 10 boroughs in this city. And our protagonists are Ulysses Sanchez and Devin Willis. And they're both, it starts off with them as rival gang members who get incarcerated. They get put into a privatized prison. And this prison, basically with their lifers, they're running experiment on these prisoners. And what ends up happening is these two end up manifesting powers and inadvertently end up leading a jailbreak out of this facility. And you have all these meta-empowered inmates that flood the Decapolis. And it turns the city upside down. So when you think of the Decapolis, there's 10 boroughs. Each borough, think of it, has its own, I'd say, crime hierarchy, its own magi. And then what ends up happening when the metahumans flood the Decapolis is some of these metahumans, they become hired hands, and then the crime world goes crazy as different people go. Basically, it's a land grab for power. And the police don't have the means with which to stop them. So Devin, Ulysses, and some of these other characters that have now been empowered, they have to put aside their differences and they have to hero up. They have to posse up and they have to save their city. So that is kind of a quick feel and a flavor. If you want, run the trailer.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
do it.
All right, here we go, guys. Let's go ahead and
Welcome,
Anybody
Beyond
hear
Time
that already?
travelers. You are in for a real treat with our first ever 3-in-1 campaign. We are making our biggest offering yet, featuring 3 graphic novels, 2 story arcs, all in one Beyond Time universe. Get ready for Volume 2 of Magna, The Last Pantheon. We had a successful campaign for Volume 1, and we don't want to leave you hanging. This campaign will offer both Magna, The Last Pantheon, Volumes 1 and 2, so that those who have just discovered the adventures of Magna can get caught up. There are more deep mysteries that will be uncovered as Kari Skogsholm discovers more of her past and reaches her final stand against supernatural forces bent on humanity's destruction. But wait, there's more. We are also introducing our Beyond Time supporters to the Posse. This is the first time we are releasing the 76-page graphic novel of the Posse Fugitives Volume 1. It is the first installation of 2 gang members, Devin Willis and Ulysses Sanchez, and their need to put aside rival affiliations in order to save their city from the chaos following a full-scale jailbreak, releasing the deadliest of metahuman convicts. All of this happening in one amazing Beyond Time universe. All production is 100% complete as we continue our mission to bring you the very best in comic book entertainment. Join us for boundless imagination.
right on, bro.
Very
Yes, sir.
cool.
Very nice.
Yes, sir. So for those that back, the production is complete. So we're basically going to go from the closing of the campaign. We've already put together the print files. We're going to go directly to print and then get the books into people's hands.
Right on.
Awesome.
So, one thing I noticed, just being a new letterer myself, the first book I lettered was Tropical Magic. Shout out to that on Indiegogo.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
For a limited time only. But no, I will say, dude, your letterist is solid, man. That blam, I really like. There's almost kind of like a blur effect to it that looks really, really good.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I mean, I actually, it sounds simple, but I definitely learned the hard way when I first started self-publishing books back in the day, how important letters are. Letters are the thing that, like, if you're not noticing them, then they're done well.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those thankless jobs. It's like being a referee. You know, you won't
Right.
letters won't get loved, but they will get hated on if the lettering isn't done well. You know, and I've been working with Marco de la Verde for years. After I first published my paper copies of Black Tiger back in the day through Diamond, the lettering, you know, the pencils were amazing, the inks were amazing, colors were amazing. Then the letters just shot the book in the foot. You know, so you got to realize that this whole process, it is forming the lines of Voltron. You got to have them all. They all come together, then you got something greater than just the sum of the pieces.
Sure.
But when you don't, you know, you're limping along.
I like it. Got a rock in your shoe, pretty much.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so let's check out the campaign a little bit. You gave us a pretty thorough breakdown, I feel like, of kind of, or at least the gist of what the story is. Could you kind of talk a little bit about what inspired you to go with a mythological sense? And also, I just have to ask, did you play Altered Beast on Sega Genesis back in the day?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay, because that werewolf is giving me like some Altered Beast vibes.
Yeah, that game was dope back in the day. And for me, so along with comics, you know, I grew up playing D&D, and I was a big reader of mythology. That was the one thing that I also loved to read outside of reading comic books and fiction and science fiction was reading, you know, reading about mythology. And that's always been, so ultimately, this is just a combination of different loves of mine. You know, I've always been intrigued and horrified by World War II. So just being able to put different elements, and the thing is, like, they're the parts of World War II that us as Americans are very familiar with, But then it's like, what was happening in Finland during this time, with Finland and Russia. I mean, there's there's so much crazy history, that sometimes history is stranger than fiction. So just being able to kind of, meld some cool historical events, along with bringing these, more high fantasy type elements to the table. I love that in storytelling, and I like to bring that. It takes, takes a lot of research. But at the end of the day, if somebody is writing, they should be well read, and they should have done a really good job with their research. And writing is continual writing and rewriting and editing. It's a process. It's not a one and done. And I think that's what makes for good comics.
I definitely agree. And growing up, for me, mythology was also one of the things that really struck me, like Greek mythology. I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house, and I'd ride my bicycle up to the library, like about a half mile or so. Just, Greek mythology books were big. Yeah, definitely. Just, I don't know, something, I guess there's also like Hercules, that Hercules show growing up with Kevin Sorbo. That was awesome.
Oh, dude, I'm so old. I thought you were talking about Hercules. Hercules.
You know what's jacked up about that, Pedro? I can only think of the parody song that kids made up.
Yeah.
Hercules is a big fat pony.
Hercules
is cheese and bologna.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Bro, that was a cartoon, and it was dope.
That's a cartoon. Yeah, it was a dope cartoon.
Nice. It was dope.
On the vein of the, what's the name? Mytor.
Mytor. Oh, let's go. I love Mytor. I love the Herculoids.
Yeah. I was.
Yeah. Those were.
I'm derailing.
No, you can derail, because I would derail with you, man. I will go all the way down that rabbit hole.
Oh, shit.
I will fall all the way down that rabbit hole.
Neostar says World War II was full of all kinds of crazy shit. I have to agree. Yeah. So, and I also agree with you, John, that writers, that's like kind of one of my favorite things about being a writer is the research element. Growing up, I've always been a bit of a research bug. Just whenever I find something that I like, I will fall down, whatever sort of knowledge. Well, I like to suck up as much information as I can about things. And it turns out that's useful for writing.
It is. It's exceptionally useful. And I think even like for this with Beyond Time, like being a gamer, especially being like a role-playing game, person, every game has an engine, So one of the things that I've been very purposeful in doing with not just this series, but with this world is I built an engine, and one of the things that you get to really see in this story is how this engine works and how can I make all of these different pantheons and including even some Judeo-Christian references. How do I make all that work in one engine? Because you have to have a consistent engine for, and I think there's a number of shows that I watched, like even when they remade Battlestar Galactica back in the early 2000s, the first season or two were really fun. But what ended up happening is they got further into the series and they really had to figure out what their engine was. It showed that they didn't know, A, they either didn't know what their engine was, or B, they were afraid to go down that path. And once you started going down that path, you got to do it. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like no one's trying to proselytize anyone. We're just trying to have fun. We're just trying to tell fun stories. But you got to have an engine for a world that you're building. You have to have rules. You have to have, kind of like an infrastructure for how your world works. And that's one of the things that I had a lot of fun building, just as somebody that always loved, role playing.
Right. Kind of reminds me of Supernatural as you're speaking a little bit, like the really early seasons of that show before angels came to Earth and stuff like that. They had you could almost call it a monster of the week formula, but they had something where, you probably would describe it as an engine. And like once they probably got a little too far into the shows, like where they could have ended it, like basically when the Antichrist and Devil shows up, and it's like season 5 or something, like stuff just continues to escalate because they've kind of already reached the point to where it's like, if we do anything else, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to add in some new parts here, and it can be good, but it really and the show's still good, but it definitely like took it down a different path for sure.
Yeah.
We got Joe Catapano. What's up, Joe?
What's up, Joe?
How you doing, sir? Got a great Sunday morning show, A Cup of Joe, and also Art Bros.
Yeah, Art Bros
over there.
Just on earlier. I was in their chat.
There you go. Very good. Jake Twister says, I can't help modding my source engine. Please help me. I'm not sure that there's enough help we could send you, buddy. So, John, could you tell us a little bit more about your team? We talked about your letterist, but who's the artist on this project, man?
So for both volumes of Magna, Marcio Abreu is the penciler, and he's fantastic. He's a dude that I knew would really be able to bring the sensibility to the book that I was looking for. I wanted to have, this strong female lead. You really get the feel of her stature, but she's still very feminine. I knew he was going to be able to pull it off. He had done some work for Dynamite for Red Sonja, and that was what really kind of drew me to him. As I said, this dude can really pull it off. He can, and a lot of this is, the aesthetic as well. I mean, the story, you have to make sure that your story is working, but you have to have the proper aesthetic. And I wanted to make sure that she was well represented in this book. And he knocked it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
definitely a muscle babe, which I'm sort of, as I've gotten older, I'm starting to look at like muscly chicks a little differently. I'm like, could you squeeze me in your arms for a second, maybe?
Oh man,
Jen is like,
sorry guys.
No.
Did I ruin the show?
Yeah, dude. Oh,
you gotta call it.
Forget I said that. I guess I'm
now it's the snoo show.
Oh no.
Yeah, dude. Feel like, baby, I got this watermelon. Would you mind?
Like, pretend that's my head.
Yeah, just
squeeze that as hard as you can.
Oh, please.
So could you talk a little bit about the villains of this book? Are there like sort of outright bad guys, or what are we facing here?
There are. So, a little bit like a horror story. You don't get to see the ultimate villain until you'll see it in the second volume and the reveal of who the ultimate villain is. But you have this hodgepodge band of deities, and they seem to be working with and co-conspiring against each other at the same time. So it kind of pulls you in a couple of different directions. They all have their own agendas, and one of the things that I always loved about mythology was just the humanness of these different characters.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these characters, I sought to stay, kind of as true to kind of some of the historical representations, but some of them I purposefully did some serious deviations from. Like Heracles, he is a complete, just different direction than what you hear in kind of in the mythos, and it makes for a very fun story. But yeah, the reason why I don't want to give up too much about that is it's a big part of kind of the curveball that the story throws. At the end of the day, you're working with stories like this. There are particular tropes that you'll find in the story, and tropes in and of themselves are not something that I abhor. I like tropes. The question becomes, how do you deliver it?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you provide the story? And I saw what Neil Starr said about Big Barda. Yeah, there's not enough. The world needs more Big Barda.
Oh yeah.
That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Snoo.
And we all got to go.
Yeah. I mean, why not? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, if we go, let's go with a smile. Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The mind is willing, but the body is weak.
Body is weak.
Okay. Elliot says he enjoyed the first Magna book. It was great.
Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate your support, Elliot.
Elliot is the man.
Yeah, Elliot's, man, his artwork is just stepping up and up and up. That dude has just been in Super Saiyan mode, going to the next level.
I like this.
You know?
Yep.
The noise scared me.
That was I think that was Super Saiyan power.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, muscle ladies thirsting. Time to lift, bros. All right, this is getting crazy now.
Yeah. You see the gates you open.
Damn it. Okay. All right. So no, I had a no. Yeah. So what do you think that is, John? With not to deviate again too much, but sort of the very humanness of the Greek gods. I think it's like something that almost confuses people, or sort of is. I myself sometimes have a hard time understanding is why is it that we always see Zeus making so many what you'd probably call egregious errors in judgment, but but it's like it's something that many a human has probably done over the course of time. So there's some element of that. But why do you think they represented that within their gods and not trying to make them like perfect beings? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I mean, well, I definitely kind of within the kind of arc of this story, I definitely have a way of describing that, and it's so you basically have the deification of some very powerful beings, but it all comes down to what your definition of a god is, and sometimes it's a definition of, sometimes it's just something that we don't comprehend. We can deify things that are just beyond our understanding or beyond our own capabilities. So what I do with this book is I do create an engine, and I do reveal to you, whether we're talking about, Nephilim or, kind of, I do reveal like in this universe, this is kind of your overall structure, and this is how this works. So you still have an awe to these characters, but you're also getting kind of a look under the kimono, and you're saying like, oh, okay, I get it. So yeah, you've got these powers, but you're not as flawless as some may think you are.
Okay,
there
we go. It's all in the delivery, as you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Under the kimono, so to speak. Yeah,
I like it. Back to Muscle Broad under the kimono. I don't know. Am I stretching this out too much? No, so what are we looking at here, John? I gotta ask, what's this werewolf about?
So this creature is the spawn of a creature that you all know well, and has been sent in this scene to bring our heroine, basically to retrieve our heroine. But there's a problem when you send a feral beast to do a job like that.
Yeah.
They're not always gonna stick to the script.
Yeah. Dude, that fall, I'm just thinking about my lumbar region.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's not like somebody walking on your back to readjust it. That's somebody trying to break your spine.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that. At least for a regular human, it's very, very kinetic. I love the action, how it's depicted, and the moments chosen. You know what I mean? Because I mean, this is not animation, so you need to pick like the exact moment to depict action. And dude, like this guy knows his stuff.
Well, that's the beauty, and that's something. I mean, you have the benefit of being an animator and a sequential artist, so I think that gives you like an amazing upper hand. And that was one of the things that I've come to appreciate, even when I was working at Motown Animation, working on comics and working on animation. It's the fact that like, it's not just the suspending the disbelief, but you've got to carry people from panel to panel, and their imagination is filling in all the action in between. So you've got to be very choice with the images that you choose, and it has to be choreographed so people can flow from one to the next. So I'll tell you a quick story. When we used to go to when I was working at Motown Animation, on Wednesdays we would go up to Golden Apple, which was a comic store up on Melrose. And sometimes my boss, Michael Davis, would come with us. I remember one time we were in there just it's new comic book day. So what, just going through
Yeah.
the books, enjoying. I look at my boss, and he picked up a book. He literally is just following the images, not reading it, just following the
Nah.
images. I watched him do this. So and then he went back to the beginning of the book. I said, "Didn't you just ruin the book for yourself, Michael?" He's like, "Listen." He's like, "Comics, it's a visual medium as well as a written medium." He's like, "I should be able to follow the flow of the panels, and I should be able to get 80% of what's going on in the story. If I can't, then the art is not telling a good part of the story. It's not doing its job. Then when I go back, the writing should just be the pebbles and the small rocks. If the writing is telling me things that I can already see, then it's being redundant.
Yeah.
The writing needs to fill in the things that I can't see. And that's how you know you're getting a good book. If I come away after having looked at the images and then I read it and I still don't know what's going on, then the writing wasn't fulsome enough to fill in the story. Now, if I'm looking at the wording and the wording is telling me things that I already see, this guy just has diarrhea of the mouth.
Yeah.
So you have to it is a dual medium. It uses both sides of your brain. You have to, at its best, you let the things that are seen be seen, you let the things that need to be said, and that's when you have to go back and reread something. Like you read it and you've looked at it and you're like, oh, then you go back and like, oh, okay. And that's what too many times people don't give the audience the benefit of being smart.
Yeah.
They want to spoon feed, and they don't want to allow us to enjoy the artistic process as well as the prose portion of the story. But you need both, and that's why comics, when it's done well, it's the best medium out there, because you get both sides of your brain. Someone isn't just dictating things to you. You've got to be looking. You've got to be paying attention. There's a passive part and there's an active part, and you're the one that's filling in what's going on in between the panels. So there's much more active portions that are going on in a comic book than if you're just sitting back watching a show. So it is much more active in that regard.
I completely agree, really. I mean,
yeah,
your brain does really fill in the gaps in between, what is shown or what isn't in like a good action scene or something like that.
Yeah.
Right on, bro.
So with that said, I love to choreograph. I'm really writing the scripts out in their entirety, and it's not that I'm trying to pin the penciler to the wall and this is exactly how it needs to look, but it's more of, if I'm like, if I'm the director and I'm the writer, then the penciler's like the cinematographer. So the penciler can then look at the scripting and say, like, I see what you're trying to do. And I've had many conversations like this. I see what you're trying to do. That's not going to work, but we can do this. Or this is crazy. Or wow, this really works. But what you end up with is somebody being able to now bring to the table, hey, I've got the visual portion of this. I got this. Let me take this to the next level. I see what you're trying to do, and we can do it better. And I have a number of examples of pages that turned out even way better than the way I laid them out, because I made it clear what I was trying to achieve. And then the penciler was like, oh, bro, I can take this to the next level. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
And sometimes it's just moving the camera like a couple of degrees to one side, like maybe a tilt. And then the storytelling changes completely, So, yeah, dude, it's cool, that brother. It can be abrasive sometimes, but dude, it's very rewarding in that sense.
Yeah, I think when you're able to, and first, I mean, you have to both be in a process, especially with indie books. You need to be in a place where your penciler has gotten a hold of the vision and really likes the vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if the penciler doesn't like the vision,
it's
either you need to do a better sell job on the pencil, or you need to get somebody else to pencil the book.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get that Voltron effect if you're not both like, okay, yeah, I got the vision. Now, how do we deliver this in just a fantastic way?
It's a dual hard-ons. You got to play like everybody got to have a hard-on for the project. If not, it's not
Yes,
gonna work.
There you
that's
go.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of just a bit about doing what you love. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you really have to, especially with creative stuff. Otherwise, you can kind of just feel it within the writing, within the work. You know what I mean? It's like if you can't be excited about getting behind what you're doing, then it's probably going to be a good bit harder
Yeah.
creating it.
Yeah.
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 Especially with muscle ladies, right, James?
Listen, and now that the
Uh,
secret's out, I'm not going back. All
yeah,
right,
exactly. Own it.
muscle ladies,
There's
welcome.
no shame.
No shame at all,
There's
man.
no shame in that.
Actually,
All
I'm
right.
proud of you. I'm proud of you, Ginge.
Yeah,
Right?
we made some
Yeah.
great steps here today,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm
Exactly.
excited about that. So, John, could you tell us a little bit about posses? Could you maybe touch on, is there a connection with this and Magna, or is this
Mm-hmm.
within the same universe, but it has its own spin on everything? I see some dinos here.
Yeah. Oh, those are my guys right there. So there's interconnectivity. It's not, the stories are not written in a way where you need to read one to read the other, because
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of that myself. But you will see interconnectivity, in particular for those of you that ever back Black Tiger, which is still in demand, by the way. Um, you'll start to see, like, as I spoke about the engine, you'll start to get a better understanding of how metahumans play into this world. So Magna really shows you how the deities play into this world,
Mm.
but the posse and Black Tiger show you how metahumans play into this world and the
Nice.
interconnectivity between all of this stuff. So in that regard, you'll get, I think, more in terms of like the background and kind of, some of the fun stuff that I like as a nerd, as things get revealed in the universe. But the stories are self-sustained stories, so you can read them and not feel like you're losing anything if you're not reading Black Tiger and Magna as well. You can read the posse.
Very
Very good.
cool.
Yeah.
Guys, I need to go. I've been called to the other show I have on Wednesdays. Yes,
Yeah, okay. The
Okay.
pontificators.
Yeah,
Oh, time to pontificate. Yes.
yeah, I'm very sorry. I really wanted to be here, but they're calling me.
Hey,
Sorry,
man.
Pedro.
Appreciate you, Pedro. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Man.
dude, John, the books look amazing, dude. It's an inspiration to hear you talk. So yeah, let's do this again on
No
a
doubt.
day that's not a Wednesday. Jeez,
Yeah. We can do it
Hey,
on a
love
Sunday.
the chat. Love you, Ginge.
everybody.
We'll be talking, guys. Take care.
Late.
Later.
Okay. Yep. So, where were we? Well, John, you got about another 10 more minutes or so, and then
Yeah, I
we'll
do,
wrap
brother.
up this stuff. Okay, excellent. So, is this the complete story of the posse, or are you? I see a volume 1 here. Is this potentially an ongoing series as well?
This is the first half of this story arc.
Okay.
So you get a good amount of beats. It gets you well into the story. You get, I wanted to make sure, especially with it being a crowdfunded book, that people get enough of the story that they're willing to come back. So it's a 76 pager. It moves you along. You get well entrenched into this world with this, and then we'll provide the subsequent story arc to conclude this.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Okay, I like it.
So that's kind of been my strategy as of, for these first few campaigns, especially since people don't know the properties.
Yeah.
Just making sure that I'm giving folks enough to really, and believe me, I am not a master of this. I do not have the formula. Black Tiger: Legacy of Fury was a 172-page graphic novel. So that was six. That was basically six, 25 plus page issues to complete. So I delivered one full story arc. I wanted people to know that I can give you a complete story, top to bottom, with all the requisite beats. And
Right.
then Hidden Dragon, which was the volume that followed it, that is basically 3 issues in the first half of that. And I kind of used a similar formula here for Magna, just in terms of providing a complete story arc for the last Pantheon, and I appreciate that, Neostar, and then doing the same for the Posse. And then as these stories are now being further and further developed, then I can start doing shorter shots in the book and getting them out a little bit more frequently, because you already have a history to work off of, and I'll be building off of what's already there. I just didn't want to start with small snippets and people being like, this dude John is driving me crazy. He's giving me this short snippet and then telling me come back next year, or come back in a year and a half. So it's difficult. I mean, we're all trying to figure out this crowdfunding thing, because it's different than periodical books that are coming out on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I think that's actually, now that you sort of mentioned that, especially with your first book being 170 pages, to me, one thing I think of is it's got to look great. It's got to feel great just sitting on your desk, like a big fat stack of paper. It's like, this is my book. This is so nice. Thick. Yeah. No, but I think that's sort of one of the things that's kind of the easy or sort of one of the explanations between why manga and American comic books are, well, I guess you'd say, just sort of battling it out, but really, for like roughly the same amount of money now, $8.99, $7.99, you can get, 32 pages or 24 pages of something from Marvel or DC that, is likely not going to be as good as for the same price. You can get 107, there's some manga runs from like 170 to like 250 pages, depending on the publisher roughly. So you really do. And I'm learning that you kind of need, I don't know if need is precisely the word, but you do need a page count in order to really flesh out the story. Like you can do it and you can sacrifice stuff, but to really get it across the way it feels like it needs to be done. Yeah. Like it sort of makes sense why manga artists condense their books the way they do like that.
Yeah. Pacing is real, and part of the problem is oftentimes in comics, we feel rushed, because we're, and that was one of the challenges I had was like, man, I'm going to need 172 pages to provide this story arc. And then just saying, then that's what we're going to do, and we're going to pace the book well. And we're going to, because I think a lot of times we end up, trying to rush things to get to a place where we can just run on a periodical basis, where people say, oh, okay, well, now I know what the story is. But it's like, but the way the story is unraveled is so important. It's like, oh, you didn't let us come along for the ride of discovery. You just kind of said, like, it's almost like a cliff note. So here's what it is. It's like, oh, man, that's actually a kind of cool conceit. It would have been cool if we'd seen that unraveled, in a story.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the first issue curse almost in a way. It's like you have to get people hooked on the idea without even necessarily explaining what it is, the full story you're trying to tell with all the twists and turns in the later issues. It's like that first issue, whether it's good or not, sometimes even I've heard comic book shop owners talk about this with like first issue bumps. Like there's always that massive drop off from first issues, like whether it's even good or not. You know what I mean? People sometimes pick something up and it's like, all right, well, whether I need to see anything else or not. It's like sometimes if they're just satisfied, that seems to be enough. But there needs to be a good ending, I think, to kind of, I guess not necessarily a cliffhanger, but I'm in the Peter Simeti camp of trying to complete the story within the issue while also, giving you enough to bite down on potentially for the next issue. I'm not a big cliffhanger guy.
That's why comics should not be written like movies.
Yes.
I mean, you should have appropriate subplots, B's and C's in there. And that's what they did back in the day. So there was always something of interest. There was always something of intrigue. So even when you completed a story, there were still other things that you were curious about. And you should always leave people wanting to know more about your character, wanting to know more about the world, wanting to know more about the mystery. You should never close an issue by closing the book and just saying like, yep, there we go, because at the end, then what's somebody's incentive to come back for the next issue and say like, I'd like to get a little bit more, I'd love to learn a little bit more.
It's almost kind of Star Wars-y in a way, like A New Hope kind of ends it off, really. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's more story to tell if you want to learn more about these characters, but Empire Strikes Back kind of drops you almost at the start of another story in a way. I mean, it's connected, but it does, at the end of A New Hope, it's the award ceremony. It's like,
that's also, I mean, Empire is my favorite movie.
Right.
And it really was, I mean, it was brilliant the way that they were able, because when you watch the end of Star Wars, you're like, that's kind of it. Right? I mean, it's like,
right.
I call it Star Wars because I'm old. People call it
right.
New Hope. I'm old, so I just call it that's Star Wars. When I watch Star Wars, I mean, it's like, hey, you get the button at the end. Everybody but poor Chewbacca got a medal.
No.
Oh,
it's fucked
Chewie.
up. Come on,
Chewie's.
I never even noticed that.
On,
actually,
man.
that's actually kind of messed up. You should have gave the Wookiee a medal.
Come on, but I mean, because it's like they achieved the goal. They had destroyed the Death Star, but they did such a great job of not just simply trying to what they've been doing now, which is rehashing what happened before, because Empire is a totally different story. And it is a story. It is basically the Empire's revenge, and you're just like, man, that movie is what made that property a classic.
Yeah, the up and then the down really makes I know people's out of the original trilogy, Jedi tends to be people's least favorite, but for me growing up, it was actually my favorite, and it's mostly because of the opening. I love Grandmaster Luke. I love Jedi Knight Luke when he's like showing up at Jabba's palace. Just finally you've seen him at the start before he's even known how to use a lightsaber. Now he's wearing all black with a black hood, looking like a fucking like somebody you don't want to mess with. I love that the energy of that scene. Yeah. Okay, so
go ahead, brother.
I was just gonna say, well, we're gonna keep. I'm sure you've got family stuff to get to, so let's kind of talk your. You've got some merchandise here. Let's talk the perks, buddy. What all are we offering?
So for those of you that don't have any of the books, you can get the featured perk, which is basically getting all 3 of the 76, because each graphic novel is 76 pages. So you get all 3 graphic novels. So it's actually, all said and done, it's a pretty decent deal. So you can get all 3, Volume 1 of Magna, Volume 2 of Magna, and Volume 1 of the Posse.
Trifecta.
That's the trifecta. That's probably the best way to go if you don't have all 3. Now, with that said, if you're somebody that is super set on getting first printings, we have a limited number of first printings of Volume 1 left. Nice. The way I would actually go in is go down to where it says first printing. There's 3. So every graphic novel has 3 cover options. So for Volume 1, you see there's 3 of them. You can pick the one of the 3 cover options that you want. I would pick that, and then I would go in and I would individually add Volume 2 as an add-on and add the Posse Volume 1 as an add-on. And that will ensure that you get first printings of everything that you get.
Okay, very nice.
Because like you can see, there's only 13 of that cover left.
I see.
The one, yeah. And because those ones I put on there are all of the first printings that I have left. Mm-hmm. So once the first printings are gone, then we'll do a second printing of Volume 1.
There you go. Congratulations, too. Getting to the end of that print run must feel pretty sweet.
It feels pretty good. It does feel pretty good.
Also, just point that out, a set of cheeks over here, just sort of right by the perk. So
it feels good as well.
Grab the perk by the set of cheeks if you're interested.
Right. That's right.
Okay, so this is our Magna 1 cover 2 first printing. Okay, very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's 3 cover options.
I see.
So those are the 3 cover options for Volume 1 that you got right there. Then you can also pick up, I think if you scroll up, I think maybe the digital option. So there's some digital options here as well. You can get, since each graphic novel in essence is 76 issues. You can get a graphic novel for $10, and you can do an add-on. So if you wanted to grab a couple of them, volumes 1 and volume 2, you can, and each one is 76 pages, so it's a good deal.
Oh yeah.
And the way the digital is delivered, it's delivered on the Beyond Time website. So we have a site, and people register, and then you're given access to the books on the site.
Very good. Okay.
And
yes, it's hard to beat 76 pages per volume. I mean, really, guys, this is pretty awesome.
It's thick.
There's
there's beanies. I love these beanies. So, Shay, she's the queen of merch. If anybody's doing a campaign and you need like guidance or assistance with merch, she is your girl. So in the first Magna campaign, we had just black beanies with kind of the embroidery of Magna on it, and they were awesome. And I was like, I love those beanies. What can we do that would be next level for this campaign? So these are reversible beanies. So the Magna one is yellow on one side with the black lettering. Then you reverse it, it's black with the yellow writing. And same for the posse. I love those beanies.
Dude, nice, very nice.
And then as long as you're there, there's also some really dope shirts.
Yes.
That you've got the Magna and the Hund, and as well as her, and I call that the Behold the Pantheon image.
Very nice.
And what you're basically top and bottom, you're looking at the front and the back of the shirt. So the one with Magna and the Wolfman, the back of the shirt is black with Magna on it. And yeah, exactly. And then there's two options for the posse as well. One is really kind of like an offset image, which is really cool, of Devin walking off into the distance.
Yes.
And then it has...
I like this quite a bit, actually. It's got this... I don't know. I like these kind of scene shots. I don't know what, like, kind of moody... it's... Yeah. There's a...
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is for it, but there's a word for it. Yeah, I like it.
And I like that, too. And she put that together. And then the last one, an artist who goes by Artisita1 on Twitter. His name is Charles Oak. He just did this awesome. I mean, it's like, it feels like 1990s plus some, GTA with, some awesome graffiti, and it says, the Posse Fugitives. And when he put that together, I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. So, you can get that really, really, dope image on the back of a shirt for one of the options.
Is he a CGI artist, or this really does have a GTA is what came to mind when I originally saw it, and I kind of almost looked at it more like computer generated, but it almost looks like it's painted or something here. It is digital, but he does digital painting. So for those of you that backed Black Tiger Hidden Dragon, the third option, the Rod Looper one, the painted cover, this is the dude that painted it. Nice.
So yeah, this cat is amazing.
Right on. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Then we got the team here. We got Marcio on pencils.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the letterist, Marco.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Omi did the majority of the colors, and Vinicius finished up for him and did a phenomenal job.
Hell of a mustache on him. I gotta.
Telling you, man. You almost got handlebars there, almost.
Yeah, he could do it. His has that sharp point where you just need to. Mine goes down like a Chinese man. I get the Fu Manchu look.
You just put your hands behind your back and look wise, and then, give somebody a kung fu kick when they try to run up on you. Exactly. And two of the cover options from Volume 1 were from Elizabeth Torque. And the other four cover options were all from my man Eduardo Ramirez Vieira, who just did an amazing job.
Ah, okay, very nice.
And then there's my boss, my wife. She's my editor.
I like it.
And
the boss.
She's also the queen of fulfillment. People are like, oh, the books are so well packed, and I'm like, yeah, my wife did that.
Yeah, my girlfriend was the same way with like taping the boxes. Like I put together the boxes really nice, but when it came to like putting the tape on it, I was just gonna like cover the ends in tape, but she's like, no, you got to fold it like it's a Christmas present. So she like folded the ends of the tape in to make it look nice like a present. I was like, all right, thank you, dear.
But, you're like, that's awesome. I wouldn't have done that, but thank you.
Well, I mean, she's kind of right, and the difference was nice. I mean, it's certainly, and I don't know how to fold Christmas presents. Maybe that reveals more about me than I should. But so was that your wife? Was that your wife in the trailer, or was there somebody?
Yeah, that was my wife in the trailer.
There we go. Very nice. A true team. I like it.
That's
so we got the posse here. Who are we working with?
So the pencilers were Ron Adrian and Sheldon Go. They're the ones and they did a phenomenal job with the pencils of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you, Marco, that's my dude for lettering, and I had an inker who was actually out. His name is Ernest Jackson. He did a phenomenal job. He's actually out of the Philippines. And then Bongbong Irawan, who's actually out of Indonesia. He did the colors.
Very nice.
So just a phenomenal team. And Valerio Giangiordano, he did a couple of the covers. So the first two covers, including the Dinos one, and those are my guys. The Dinos, that cover. So each cover, all the covers have inspiration from something. The first Fugitives cover is kind of a little bit of a riff off of the Harrison Ford Fugitives movie, where he's kind of running off and, being pursued. The second cover was actually
family, probably. I want my family back.
Exactly.
Right.
The second cover is actually a riff off of an old NWA cover, where you're from the viewpoint of like they're standing over you. So it's like you just got beat down.
I like
so I wanted to make it very claustrophobic. So you see the dinos, they're kind of crowding you, they're around you, and it's bad news.
Okay. Yeah, that one's up here, right? Here we go.
Yeah, that one in the middle there. Yeah.
Nice.
And then the third cover is just a straight riff from Boys in the Hood. So, I mean, you have Cuba Gooding Jr. in the middle. To my right would be Ice Cube, leaning against the car. And so, I mean, it's just a straight homage.
Right.
To the Boys in the Hood.
Very nice.
Even with the Impala.
Yeah. Homage covers, that's kind of been one of the fun things about getting to be the person that makes decisions on things is that like the two covers for Spells and Superheroes were both homage. Well, not the covers, but the two prints were both homages. So, Yeah, the one was Ninja Turtles, and the other one was a Neil Adams Batman cover, where Batman's like on a Joker playing card, and he's like just sort of getting spun through the city, and like Joker superimposed, like
Yeah, that's awesome. I know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay, so John, this is an incredible project, bro, and also this has almost got a bit of an Alex Ross kind of lifelikeness to it. Really great lighting too.
Yeah, the lighting was phenomenal. He was. I had the idea for the image, but he was the one that kind of, put it in. I mean, to make it even more claustrophobic. You're like in a tunnel.
I like it. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. We've kind of covered. Is there anything that you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
We're in our last 24 days. So just appreciate, you have me on the show, appreciate the sharing. So, if folks are able to share it out there, appreciate that. If you want to get your hands on it, go for it, because we're going to go right to printing. Like I told you, the files are already together. So once the campaign closes, we'll go right to printing, and we'll print some overage, but not too much.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. So are you headed straight into another campaign once this thing fulfills? Is the show must go on?
The show must go on. So Black Tiger, we are 2 pages away from having all the pencils and inks completed for the next volume of Black Tiger.
Right on.
And we are probably one third of the way already colored. So that will be the conclusion of Hidden Dragon, will be the next campaign.
All right. That's big news. That's the end.
Yeah. Yeah,
on.
and then but just like Peter Samedi said, it's like you end a story arc, but you're planting seeds for other story arcs. So
There
we'll
we
just
go.
keep the ball moving.
Yep. And whenever Black Tiger launches, you're at this point we're just gonna have to try to think of a good pirate word. I'm not commandeer, but I don't know. You'll have to come back on the show. How about that?
I would love to do that, my man. I would love to.
All right, John. Thank you for coming by, bro. Really had a great time talking with you, and an hour and a half flew by. So thank you all to the chat. Now we had some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Neo Star, good man over there with
Yeah.
Riser
Thank you,
Twister.
Mistah. Awesome.
Yeah. Elliot Rodriguez, Mo Biggs, Joe Catapano, Shadowhawk Backs. I believe that's everybody. Okay, y'all. Appreciate y'all watching the show. We have, I'm not sure who we have this Sunday coming up, but keep your eyes peeled. We'll see what's happening. And until then, we will catch y'all next time on the Ginge and Pedro Show.
Peace.
Peace.